So Dr. Crispin, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started to tell us about this new program at USC.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to first share my screen so you can kind of follow along, and it helps me stay on track so I don't ramble too terribly much. So first and foremost, I'm Christine Crispin, and I am a faculty member at USC, specifically at Keck, at the medical school at Keck. So in my capacity, part of my capacity at Keck is I sit on the admissions committee for the medical school. So I've screened applicants for interview. I actually do interview, and I always am on the committee that votes for them to be accepted. I do that every 2 weeks up until the time we seat our class. And so I've been doing this for a while. I've been in medical education now for about 11 years. I used to be the director of admissions at Irvine, at UC Irvine. And so I've been in this world for a while, and the opportunity was presented to me to create really a program for students who may not have the opportunity to receive really more one-on-one targeted support in their pre-med journey. And our hope is to partner with the pre-med office and kind of just fill in some of the gaps where we have a targeted, a few students, and we can help guide you probably in a more handheld way. And I'm very excited because I just think some of the things that we're doing is really great for students to hopefully be successful in going to medical school. Right now, we do focus primarily on medical school. Hopefully in the future, we can expand it to more pre-health. But for the first start of the launch, we're looking at pre-health. So some of the things we're going to go over today is just a general welcome, a brief overview of the program, kind of what we're looking for in our students and how we're going to admit them, kind of what the cohort could look like, the application parts in the letter of recommendation, deadlines, and kind of what you could do for the next steps. As Charlie said, questions are fine. There's only a few of us, so if I'm on a slide and you have a pressing question that you want to ask right then, so I don't bypass that slide, just turn your camera on, either raise your hand or just chime in and ask your question. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm also happy to take questions at the end after you kind of pull it all together. So whatever is easiest for you. So kind of who are we? We are designed for high achieving students with financial need looking to succeed in the medical school process. I'm sure you've heard plenty of people who have sought help through consultants and things like this. And so what I'm hoping to do is to be able to provide you some of that help through this program. The program is online. So the good thing is we'll probably do some meetings like we're doing now via Zoom. And it's designed to help you kind of recognize your strengths, fill in gaps, get you through the medical school process. And believe it or not, the cohort really is a 2 to 3 year process. We're going to kind of work with you over the next few years until you apply to and are accepted to medical school. So that could also include any gap years that you take post-graduation. We look at it as a strength-based. We're not trying to point out what weaknesses you may or may not have. We're really trying to just guide you through based on what you're able to do. There is always a level of realism involved. So if you're struggling academically, we're going to talk about that. But in general, we're not here to make you feel bad about your application or those kinds of things. We're really here to support you. It's nationwide. So what I mean by that is we have students, even on our first cohort, who come from Brown, who have come from Duke. I think we have Duke, we have Brown. I think we have a couple from Dartmouth. So we've opened it up nationwide. I guess, I don't think we talk about this, but I'll say this, is there's no cost of anything to any of the students who are involved. I guess the payment is that you participate, and then at some point in the process, you will become a mentor to the younger cohorts as they come in. That's pretty much what we want. We want to kind of build a large community of students who learn something and are able to share and pay it forward as they go along. We're really hoping to have a collaborative environment where you have people who are in the same place as you, and that you guys can support each other and we can support you as you go through this. It's funny how this came about. Somebody contacted the medical school, and my bosses at the medical school contacted me but we really do have a commitment to your success and opportunity. I think the stronger the pre-med applications are, the stronger our pool is for medical school. So we really do have a commitment to making sure that you have the access to be that strong applicant. I'm sure all of you know this, the population is very diverse and health programs are not. So that's the reality. There is a lack of diversity that contributes to lack of the disparities. So we have really made a commitment to making sure we do our little part in the world to increase the diversity and make this process, I hope, a little less of a black hole where you fall into it and have no idea how to get into it or get out of it. So in partnership with the pre-health program, we're going to really, get you through this process in a way that should help you hopefully be successful. And the ultimate thing is you shouldn't have financial barriers to becoming a successful medical student, ultimately becoming a successful physician. We're going to do, again, what we can do to help you get through that. Okay, so what are we looking for in a cohort? Nothing is 100% of the time. We do, first and foremost, we do a holistic review. I'm the person that does a review. So when I look at the application that you complete, I'm really looking at it from the same lens I'm looking at it when I look at a pre-med or an application for medical school. I'm thinking about where you are at the time you're applying. I'm looking for people who are first generation. So I'm going to parse it out even more. I'm looking for people who are first generation, who are low income. And first generation is not an absolute, because sometimes you can still get a bachelor's degree and still have struggles and still be low income, or your parents can have a bachelor's degree and there can still be various struggles. So probably not one of these things specifically will preclude you. So it's really just put your application in and let us review it so we can kind of see what your story is. We are looking for people who are low income. Pell Grant eligible is kind of where we've looked at it. So we are looking for something similar to that. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean if you don't get the Pell Grant, you're not qualified for it, because that wasn't the case with our first cohort. I also want to put out there, we have accepted students who are DACA approved. So I know DACA students would not be eligible to a Pell Grant because you're not eligible to federal financial aid. So again, DACA students are in our first cohort, and I assume they'll be in subsequent cohorts as they apply. High academics. So that's a funny way to put it, but we do want you to have relatively strong academics, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.0, again, kind of put your application out there and let us see it. Our first cohort, the average GPA for our first cohort ended up being about a 3.5. So what that means is there are people with a GPA lower than 3.5, and there are people with a GPA higher than a 3.5. This is probably one of the more important aspects of it. We do want you to be someone truly interested in pre-med. Obviously, that's what we're designed to do, is help support you go to medical school. So we do want you to have a solid pre-med interest. On the application, we ask you to talk a little bit about that. And we are looking for somewhere around 35 students. Our first cohort was 30 students. So around 35. And we want to be able to offer you some support. And so at the moment, I'm the primary person that you'll be working with. And so, you'll have contact with me, but you'll be the second cohort. So hopefully you'll have contact with some of our other students when we get them all settled and get them moving and grooving. And there'll probably be some activities that you would attend with other cohorts. We have guest speakers and things coming. So I assume we'll have all the groups come for those, as opposed to just doing it cohort based. Our expectation is we're going to have cohorts that start in the fall and the spring. So you guys will be the spring cohort. No, you won't. You'll be the fall cohort. We just said our spring cohort. Ideally, this is kind of a big picture of what the programming for the first year-ish will look like leading into the second year. we're going to talk a little bit about campuses, resources, and support. And the reason that we want to talk about that is we have found that sometimes first generation students don't always know all the resources on their own campus that they can access. And I also think there are some resources that has a stigma attached to it that they're maybe not as inclined to access, specifically things with regard to learning disabilities or getting support academically. I know this just from my job at the medical school. You have to, if you find that you need support, you have to go and ask for it. And so we're going to talk to you about some of the different kinds of supports you can access in the global sense and what some of the scenarios to help you through asking for that help. But I'm always going to push you a little bit if you're in the cohort to make sure you are accessing those resources, because I think that's the number one thing that you could do to kind of help yourself be a little more successful in your undergrad. We're going to have a study skills module. And I actually have our learning specialist, academic support director at Keck. She comes and does a Zoom workshop. And then she also will have a session with our students and help them, again, just boost their study skills, just some tips and tricks and things that she can do to help you be a good pre-med student. But these are also some of the tips and tricks, again, she uses with our med students in helping them better their studying abilities. Then we'll get into med school planning, academic planning. We have a professional skills development workshop, and that workshop is really helping you write CVs and resumes. How do you ask for and seek out some opportunities? How do you ask for letters of recommendation? Why do you need letters of recommendation? So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Pre-med experiences, I don't have to go into too much detail about what that is, but because you're going to have a whole bunch of them. So we'll have a lot of information about that. Specialties in medicine exploration. So we do have a module, just gives you an opportunity to start seeing some of the different specialties that could be available to you. And then in years 2 and 3 and going forward, we'll have MCAT prep. So we will offer some sort of an MCAT prep to our cohorts. And the timing of your MCAT prep would really be dependent upon when you plan to go to medical school. My biggest concern is that you prep close enough to the time where you're going to take the test, but you want to make sure that you're taking the test within close proximity of when you apply, so the test doesn't expire 2 years down the road because you took the prep and everything too early. So the timing of everything will be specific to you and where you are in the application process. We will talk about a gap year, kind of what that is, what it could mean for you. You'll find out I'm a huge proponent of gap years for pre-meds. I think there's a lot of benefit to it. And you'll also find out that probably 75 to 80% of our medical students who matriculate have taken a gap year of some sort. So it's not the non-traditional route anymore. It's actually more common. And so we will have some discussions about that. We'll also have some information about financing your application to medical school and then also financing your education. Applying to medical school, if we keep interviews remotely, is not quite as expensive as it used to be when you had to travel across the country to go to interviews. But I don't know if that's ever going to revert back. And if it does, we certainly want you to be prepared for the possibility. And at the moment, I have lined up our financial aid director for Keck to talk about some of that and kind of how you can prep for it and make sure that you're ready for it and kind of some of the pitfalls and things to avoid in financing all of that. And again, we expect that the students are somewhere around 2 to 3 years from applying to medical school. And so that's why we kind of have chosen sophomores. We want you to have gotten a little bit of your feet wet in college, but you're not quite ready to apply to medical school yet. There's time to really set you up to have a strong application. So there is an application that we'll ask you to complete. We're going to ask for some general high school and college information. You do want to have your transcripts available. You can pull an unofficial copy and upload it. We're not going to ask you to give us too much detail, but you definitely want to have them available to you so you can share that with us. If you have done any experiences, and this can include working, volunteering, research opportunities, whatever you've done, on your journey and plan to go to medical school, please share that with us and put that on your application. We do have 3 essay questions: why you want to go to medical school, why do you want to participate in the program, and when do you anticipate applying to medical school? That just kind of gives us an idea of what we're working with. As you get to know me, you're going to know that I harp on the why medicine question with the pre-meds I work with, because I think you cannot have a good enough answer for that. And I think the answer you think you have is good enough, and it's probably not going to be. And I don't judge that right now, but I will judge that later and we'll correct that. That's usually the second or third question I ask when I interview applicants coming to medical school is, why do you want to go to medicine? And you do have to have a good answer for that. So I'm going to start you off by having to answer it now, and we're going to refine that over the next 3 years that we're together. The general demographic info, the same info you would provide on the medical school application. Financial aid info. So for this one, we are going to ask that you provide us a copy of your financial aid award if you have it. Just again, because we are going to verify your low income status in that way. So you don't have to give us I think there's a FAFSA thing that shows that you've completed it and kind of what your EFC is. I'd really rather see what UCR offered you as part of your financial aid, specifically if you received a Pell Grant or not. Disadvantaged status. Oh, Araceli?
For what year would that award be?
The current academic year that you're applying.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So disadvantaged status. I don't know what that means. I mean, I do know what it means, but it's a weird thing to say. But we really want you to let us know if you believe that you're disadvantaged. Why you believe you're disadvantaged. Again, this is a question that's on the medical school application. And that could mean that you feel you're economically disadvantaged. You feel that you're educationally disadvantaged. It could mean that you are financially disadvantaged. I'll say this. I was a first generation student. I received Pell Grants. I actually grew up in San Bernardino, so I didn't live too far from where UC Riverside is. And so I would have filled the disadvantaged status out as well, just because I fit the bill. So definitely just give us that information. Jasmine?
Yeah, I just have a question. If you come from a low income area, would you be able to put that on the application?
Yes.
Okay.
We ask about that. Are you there?
Oh, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you. And yes, we do. You absolutely can put that on your application. There's a couple of questions. We ask you is, do you believe you were in if you grew up in an economically disadvantaged area or a medically disadvantaged area? So there are a couple questions specifically asking that, and you can certainly give us a little more detail in a narrative form.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. And then, of course, we are going to ask for your parent info. One of the questions on there, of course, is, did your parents go to college? Again, we just want to know. Nothing per se is going to disqualify you, but everything is kind of part of the picture of who you are. And as you go through the medical school admissions process, you are going to realize that I like the picture of people. I like to know who they are, where they come from, because that's how I start thinking about what their journey is and when they go into medicine. So now you and I together are going to shape that journey. The other thing that we do ask for is a letter of recommendation. And this letter could be pretty straightforward. It could be from your employer. It could be from an academic advisor. It can be from Charlie in the pre-med office. It's really just, they're going to answer a few questions about kind of, are they aware of your motivations to go to medical school? Do they have any concerns about you? Just one more thing, just to kind of attest to who you are and validate all the things that you're saying. It could be, once you identify the person to write your letter, they'll either be sent a link directly to go ahead and fill out a form, or they're welcome to write a separate letter and just attach it. So we don't really mind either way, but we do want at least one letter just to follow up. And the good thing is you don't have to wait to submit your application until the letter. So you can get all the information in the application, identify who the person is you want them to write a letter on your behalf, and you could submit your application and we can work through the review of your application while the other stuff is pending. So our new application is going to open on February 1st, and I will definitely be sending the link around to Charlie, and he can share that with whomever. We have quite a, about a 10-week period, give or take, of an application cycle. You're welcome to apply at any time. And to be honest, we'll probably start reviewing them as they come in and start making some preliminary decisions. Priority deadline is going to be April 15th. So we will probably start accepting along the way, or at least offering probably around April 15th to finalize that. So the earlier you get it in, the earlier you get a review and we can make a decision. The absolute deadline will be April 30th. Now, the anticipated start date is still relatively fluid. I said May 15th, it could be early in June. And in that regard, you may do a few things on Canvas. It would probably be very minimal, but a really hard start would be basically at the beginning of the fall semester or the fall quarter. Actually, you guys start really late. Maybe not quite as late as your fall quarter, but August, September is when we would expect you guys to really start getting into the Canvas modules. And again, the good thing is if it's not the right time for you this semester, the chances are that you could possibly still qualify for next semester if you're still interested. So don't fret if you're not quite ready for this first cohort. Let's see. Yeah. So when the application opens, if you think that you meet our criteria, complete it and submit it. If you have any questions where you are not sure, hopefully we can answer some of those questions here. But if there's something that you want to talk about that's more private, that you're not comfortable sharing in a group setting, I can share my email with you. You can talk to Charlie, and I'm happy to answer those questions privately. Jasmine, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. So would you suggest that we wait until our spring quarter ends and then turn in that unofficial transcript, or the one that we have now?
So either one is fine for me. I guess if you think your spring quarter is going to make a huge difference, you can wait, but it's fine to pull an unofficial copy now and do it then.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So again, make sure you have a copy of your transcripts, your financial aid award, and the name of the email of the person that you think can write a letter on your behalf. Those are the things you're going to want to have available to you when you complete your application. Jasmine, do you have another question, or you just haven't removed your hand? I just want to make sure.
Oh, sorry. I just didn't remove my hand.
Okay, perfect. And once you're admitted, we'll have you complete some forms. You will actually get a USC email address so you can access some of our systems, and we'll kind of get you onboarded. The onboarding takes about a month or so to kind of get all the emails and everything set up. Once you're admitted, you'll have access to all of that. I think we're at a place, yeah. So my email is here. It's basically first initial, last name, C. Crispin, P-E-N, by the way, at usc.edu. Or the generic Bovard Scholars email at usc.edu, bovardscholars at usc.edu. Either one can get to me. Abby.
For the letter or rec, does it need to be like a STEM professor, or can it be any sort of professor?
At this point, for this program, it can be anyone that you feel comfortable writing a letter on your behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Ideally, it's someone who knows you well, that's someone who understands what your motivations are, and that can attest to some strengths and weaknesses. And the way that school has been going the last 1.5 to 2 years with remote learning, I'm not sure how well your faculty might know you. I know that was a struggle with our first cohort. They were very concerned about that. So my preference is that someone who knows you, still preferably in maybe an academic setting or a professional setting, not a family member or not a personal friend. But again, you knew enough to come to this meeting, so I would feel comfortable if you talked to Charlie and he helped you write one. If you have a faculty mentor, or you have a research mentor, or just a physician mentor, somebody you know like that, by all means, they can write a letter as well.
And Dr. Crispin, I just sort of want to jump onto that because we have had questions in our office regarding letters of recommendation. Amber and I were just talking about that before the session. Just to throw out a few other examples, if a student is living in a residence hall and they've been attending programming, they've got to know their resident director or other professionals on campus, would that work as well as an option?
Yeah, this is not medical school. So this is just a soft letter of recommendation. They should know you. It could be, again, I would prefer it in a more professional capacity of some sort, but a resident director is perfectly fine, things like that. So it's just more, no, again, the biggest thing is it's not a family member and not a friend who's going to write the letter.
Just to tack on to that, Christine, I wanted to make sure that a TA would be okay, as well as for our first quarter freshmen. How do you guys feel about high school instructors?
Oh, high school's fine.
Okay. What about a TA for a class that might not be the faculty of record, but the graduate student or the postdoc student who hosted their discussion section?
I think that could be fine too. It would just add strength if the faculty signed off with the TA, but that won't, if it's not able to be done that way, just for whatever reason, I think the TA would still be fine.
Great. So just for context for the students that are on the call, when Christine mentioned a faculty signing off on that, we often call that a joint letter. So the TA and the professor might both contribute to the letter. They both might sign the letter, or the faculty of record might sign and submit that letter. So it is sometimes possible to get a joint letter between your graduate student and the faculty of record for the class. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. Abby.
Hello again. Also, since like I'm also a first year at UCR, is it okay if we like get extracurriculars from our high school, since we haven't really been on campus for that long?
Extracurriculars that you're going to put on your application?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, for this, honestly, if you have not had the opportunity, I am well aware, and I feel like I say this to every pre-med that I talk to, I am well aware of what the situation is over the last 2 years in terms of your ability to be active, get clinical experience, get volunteering experience and all that. It's been a bit rough, and I think every physician in the country is aware of this. If they're not, they've been living under a rock. So if you don't have any experiences, that is not going to hurt you. I just want to see what you have done, because again, and if you've done stuff in high school, that just lends weight to the fact that you're going to do it when it's available for you to do. So don't let something like that scare you away. That's my number one thing. It's don't let things scare you away just because you may not have it. Something may, things happen all the time. So just tell me what you have and what you've done, and we'll go from there. I see I have a question in here. Oh, okay.
I have a question regarding time commitment. So being a part of the program, what does the weekly time commitment look like for a student?
It's actually not even a huge weekly time commitment. It's more of a monthly. It's probably a couple hours a month. Your number one job is to maintain your academics, and that's going to be something I'm a broken record when it comes to things like that. So your job is going to be maintain your academics, and you're also going to be asked to do a whole bunch of things in terms of clinical experience, research, and that. And so our goal was specifically not to give you a huge time commitment. There are modules that we will ask you to complete for sure. And there even are some live sessions. Hopefully some of the live sessions are going to be fun for you though. One, you get to meet the cohort and meet us and do that. But I'm even now in process of finalizing dates for student panels and like resident faculty panels and things like that. So I want things to be fun and something you want to attend for an hour. But the modules range between 15 minutes and I think 45 minutes at most. So I would say it's a relatively low time commitment. And I would also say that once a semester, once a quarter, whatever, you touch base with me So I can get an update of where you are and what you're doing, but that's about it. So I think the time commitment is relatively low in the overall scheme of things, and there are going to be times when you're going to have to tell me, I have midterms this week, I have finals this week, and I'm going to have to be like, okay, go forth and study and be done with that. So, we really want you to be successful. And I know that if I scheduled you to 3 hours, any kind of weekly commitment, that I'm minimizing your opportunity to be successful. Yes.
What do past cohorts find to be the biggest takeaway from the program?
Say that again, please.
What do past cohorts find to be the biggest takeaway from the program?
They have not had a takeaway yet. They literally just started this semester. I am recruiting for my second cohort. So
wow.
We don't have a takeaway yet. I hope their takeaway is they get to go to medical school. But we don't have that yet. Anything else? You can ask any question too about medical school or whatever. I can try to answer whatever questions you might have while we're here. So let's see. I think my contact information is still up on the screen. This is our bovardscholars.usc.edu/premed is our website. Ignore the dates on there. I don't know if that's been updated yet. So don't freak out if we show you that December 1st or December 30th or whatever was the date. That's not the case. Again, ccrispin@usc.edu and bovardscholars@usc.edu are the ways you can contact us.
All right.
I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Crispin. This is great information. And again, we will share this on our social media platforms for our students that are joining us. If you are not following us on social media, or have not visited our website, or you've not attended any of our workshops, check out our website, hpac.ucr.edu, sign up for our weekly newsletter. We push out programs such as this program and other health professions, clinical opportunities, workshops, those types of things via our newsletter that comes out every Monday morning. We also include links to our social media, Instagram, which is really popular, but also Facebook and Twitter, and then our YouTube channel, which is where this video will be placed. So make sure you sign up for our weekly newsletter. Again, thank you, Dr. Crispin, for your time in this presentation. And we hope that some of our students will apply and take advantage of this opportunity.
I hope so too.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, be safe, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.